Hello everyone, this is Dom from iMoot. I'd just like to present Anthony Burrows, who works with Moodle HQ. He is the plugins facilitator and he's situated in Albuquerque. Can't even say that. Albuquerque. And look, we really appreciate the time that you've given up, Anthony, to present on the plugins presentation, and we're looking forward to doing some good things. So over to you.
All right. Thanks, Dom. As he mentioned, I'm the plugins facilitator for Moodle, and kind of fell into that position. I am actually a volunteer, and so as a Jesuit priest, I don't take a salary for the work with Moodle because I really just enjoy doing the work and seeing kind of the creative ways that people are using Moodle. And so I thought it'd be a good idea today to look at what are the most popular plugins currently in Moodle plugins. A couple years ago we transitioned to a new plugin system, and previously we'd been using the database activity module within Moodle to kind of manage the plugins, and it worked initially reasonably well, but we really wanted something much more dynamic, kind of developer-focused, and that would really allow the system to expand and be customized. And so a lot of work has been done to make that happen, and happy to share some of the results of that with you. So I am currently assigned and living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a Catholic priest and am the associate pastor here at Immaculate Conception downtown. But I was a teacher for several years. I was 3 years in Dallas at Dallas Jesuit College Preparatory, and then a couple of years in Houston at our Cristo Rey Jesuit High School there. And the Cristo Rey model is an interesting model of education here in the U.S. That allows the students and the school really to collaborate with local businesses and corporate sponsors. And what they do is, instead of charging full tuition, the businesses offered the students, 4 students share a job, a full-time job, and so one day a week they go to work at the school or go to work at the corporate workplace, and the rest of the days that they're at school. And the idea is that it's a way of allowing students from lower income families to receive a private education. And so it's been fairly successful here in the U.S. Several Cristo Rey schools across the U.S. So I was able to do that. By training, I have a master's in counseling. I love to play racquetball and watch Star Trek. Occasionally do some Tai Chi. I mention this just because I think it's important that folks recognize that you don't have to be a complete computer geek to really be involved in the Moodle community. And so one of the things that I try to do in my role as plugins facilitator is to really help people find their niche in the community. And so I joined the community back in 2005 when I was working in Dallas, and was simply looking for a way to begin having some online discussions with my students. And I stumbled across things like PHP, BB, and then I came across Moodle, and I'm like, well, wow, this does that and so much more. So I began using it and as a trial basis, and then the school wanted to transition to an LMS. And so they asked me to kind of oversee that. I quickly got involved on the forums, and I realized that if I would answer some of the simple questions that I saw, things that I knew the answer to, then that would free up others with more experience to answer perhaps some of the more challenging questions. And so very quickly was noted as being a particularly helpful Moodler because I was answering people's questions and trying to help people out. But there's a fair amount of self-interest in that, and so I do encourage folks, contribute to the forums. I find the Moodle forums to be a very dynamic and active place, and that folks are very helpful and willing to support one another. I was implemented and installed a patch at the time, and now, patches are kind of frowned upon, but at the time it seemed like a good thing for our site to expand its functionality in the gradebook. And then the person that wrote the patch kind of left, and I did not have any particular background in PHP, and so I had simply suggested that the maintainer add the changes that had been made to Moodle core back into his patch, and the next thing I know, they were saying that I was maintaining the patch, and so it kind of fell into my lap. But there were some things at the school that I really wanted to work on, and that they were asking for. One was to increase some of the social functionality of the site by having a birthday block, and so I wrote the birthday block and shared that with the community, and very quickly folks were responding with translations into Japanese and Portuguese, and it was really amazing to me because these things started coming in like within a few days, and then the next thing I know, people were making suggestions about expanding its ability to work in different countries with different date formats and things like that, and so really great ideas. And so one of the things that I find most exciting about Moodle plugins or add-ons is that getting that community support oftentimes can give you some really great ideas about how code can be improved upon and really more useful to a broader community. The MRBS, that's a meeting room scheduling type software that was already a PHP project, and we had some computer labs that teachers wanted to be able to schedule and reserve, and so I took that project and basically imported it and made it into a block for Moodle, and so that's been a fairly popular block. And when I became more involved with facilitating and managing Moodle plugins, I didn't really have time to maintain that, and so I was able to pass that project off to Dave O. Smith, and I'm really grateful that he did that. But again, just another way that within the Moodle community, you kind of start something, but then others can kind of come in and take over and carry projects on. And so I no longer maintain the MRBS block. Then there were some things in Moodle core that I thought that I would like to see changed. And so one was in the forums that the way that the ratings were aggregated or pulled together. When I started with Moodle, it was simply the average. And I thought, well, with my students, I would really prefer that, every once in a while I'd be able to use a max or a min or add the ratings together up to a certain maximum score. And so I wrote some code to change that. And so I really found just the Moodle system to be extremely flexible. And if you have ideas, share them with the community. I love the term meritocracy, that, if you have a good idea and you share it, it'll usually gather some steam, and people can kind of implement those. So as we get started looking at some of the more popular plugins, I'd be interested in hearing kind of what people's favorite add-ons that they have on their sites and things that they're using, tools that they've found helpful, because some of them, the really popular plugins, have been pulled into Moodle core, like the book module and feedback activity module, and others, have not, and some have gone, although infrequently, the opposite direction, like the journal activity module was in Moodle core and then was transitioned out, and so now those things can be done with the assignment module, but so the functionality is there, but some people have preferred to kind of keep going with the journal activity module, and so that became a contrib or an add-on, a Moodle plugin. So one of my responsibilities is when folks do share plugins, my job is to review those plugins to make sure that they're following Moodle protocols, that the code looks good, that it's nothing malicious, to try to install it and make sure that it does in fact install and work. And so I'm a little bit of a gatekeeper, just to help to make sure that when others, when you see that a plugin has been approved and is available on Moodle plugins, that you at least know that it's gone through some basic testing for functionality, that you should be able to install it without too much issue. I try to look for things very quickly, make sure that they're sanitizing the data, and so that it's not going to present any major security issues on your site. But it's not a careful, review, and so one of my hopes is that we'll be able to provide, and get the Moodle partners involved in doing some serious code reviews, and then be able to issue like a security award that folks know that, hey, this has been looked at and would be safe to put on a production site. So the objectives that I have for today are to recognize the difference between a Moodle plugin and an add-on, which is a pretty simple distinction, and then to identify the various types of Moodle plugins, and we'll look at for each type kind of the most popular plugins that have been shared so far with the community, how to integrate those add-ons and install them into Moodle, a process that is very much easier now in Moodle 2.5 with the new feature to do that via the user interface, and then to assess some of Moodle's most popular plugins to kind of look at who's contributed those and some of the things that you might look for and consider when looking at a plugin to see whether it's appropriate for your site. And if there are other things that you would like me to cover or questions that you have, feel free to add those to the chat, and I'll try to cover those as well. Moodle is designed to be modular. The M in Moodle stands for modular. It means that you should be able to add things in and take them out, so little, piece by piece, without having a detrimental impact onto the rest of the system. And so, if you have the quiz activity module, that should, work independently of other plugins, with the exception, obviously, of, say, question type plugins. And if there are dependencies, the developers are encouraged to declare those in the version PHP file, so that if you try to install something that is dependent on some other code, that you'll get a warning and say, hey, it doesn't really make much sense to have this unless you have this other code installed. And so the reason that you install a plugin or an add-on is obviously to increase the functionality of your site. And so, a common example would be that, well, I don't particularly care for, any of the Moodle themes, and so, but I noticed this other site that has a really cool theme, and I want to see if I can get that for my site. And so you can search the Moodle plugins listing and see, is that theme available, and download it and install it on your site. Or if you want, say, something like the birthday block, and you can add that easily to your site. And so you want to be able to, add this functionality, but the distinction between a Moodle plugin and a Moodle add-on is simply that an add-on is something that is not considered part of Moodle core. And Moodle core refers to the code that's written and maintained by Moodle HQ, by the developers at Moodle headquarters. And so all add-ons are plugins, but not all plugins are add-ons. So as an example, the quiz module is part of Moodle core, and so that's an add-on. It's considered part of the activity modules kind of framework within Moodle, and so that allows students to interact. And so we'll look at in a little bit more detail the various types of Moodle plugins to give you an idea of how things fit into Moodle. So there are various plugin types, and this is not an exhaustive, 100% exhaustive and complete listing, but it's the majority of the plugin types. We have, starting with Moodle 2.3, there used to be an assignment type prior to Moodle 2.3. With Moodle 2.3 and beyond, the assignment module was completely rewritten. And as a result, they created two new plugin types related to assignments. One is assignment submissions. So how is it that a student submits work to the teacher to say that they've completed an assignment? And then the other one is how does the teacher then kind of give feedback to the student? And one of the cool ones that's I know being considered for inclusion into Moodle Core is the PDF submission and PDF feedback types. The PDF submission allows a student to upload a PDF, and that can already be done with the normal upload a file type. But the difference is if they use the PDF submission, then the teacher with the PDF feedback can then annotate using GhostScript and make changes and kind of circle and highlight things on the student's PDF and give them that annotated PDF back to them. So it's really a neat kind of functionality there. Frank and Karen, I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys. Another one, a way of submitting assignments is an online audio recording, and so it presents a button for students to make an audio recording, and then they can submit that to the teacher, and the teacher can listen to it and then give feedback as normal. The YouTube submission type is similar. It allows for video, and I think these have been popular because one area that folks are really looking for is how do we get students to be able to present audio and video materials to the teachers, and so I think they've been popular for that reason. Another type of plugin is course formats, and so oftentimes teachers don't like the layout of their course, or they want to have a little bit more flexibility. And so some of the early layouts of Moodle were, by date or by topic, and those tend to be kind of the more popular ones. But one of the things that we really talked about and that Moodle's worked on in recent releases is how to avoid the scroll of death. And so things like the collapse topic that collapses the topics and then gives an arrow key that folks can click on to kind of show what's part of that topic have been helpful. Or things like the grid format that kind of presents that topic as an icon that then people can click on and get more information. So there are ways of changing the layout and the way that the course materials are organized and presented with course formats. Themes obviously change kind of the layout, the coloring, and different things, and so I think most folks are familiar with the concept of theming, and so I'm not going to go too much into that. Some of the most popular ones are Aardvark, Post-it, and Rocket. And the numbers out here indicate the current number of plugins that have been submitted and exist in Moodle plugins. And so folks are always welcome to share the code that they've written and ideas that they have with the Moodle community. The code doesn't have to be perfect for you to submit it. You are able to kind of say, hey, this is beta quality code in terms of the maturity of it. And then folks, are warned and at least know that, hey, this is just some ideas that I want to share, or even alpha code, to say, hey, this is just a proof of concept, but here's kind of what I'm thinking. And to get other people involved, I think that would be one of the more exciting things is to see kind of ideas proposed, and to have a group of people that are interested across institutions begin collaborating on developing that code and helping it to mature. So I think there's a lot of potential here to continue our collaborative work together. Activity modules are designed to help students engage in the materials and to actually kind of do something. So the classic one is like, a forum where people get involved in an online discussion. And so things like Hotpot, which allow teachers to give Hotpot quizzes and that type of related Hotpot-related services on their Moodle sites was kind of the number one. I can't remember if at some point Hotpot was in Moodle Core. I'm thinking it was, and then it was moved out, or my memory's a little fuzzy on that. If anyone here has a clearer recollection of that, feel free to say something in the chat. Questionnaire module is very popular. It, again, was based on another PHP project that existed. I think it was PHP ESP, and was customized to be used within Moodle, and kind of now is its own kind of beast. Very similar in functionality to the feedback module. The idea is to get information, ask questions of students, and be able to kind of get that information back and present it in an organized way, the results in an organized way. And then the big blue button activity module, which we've experienced here on the iMoot site, allows you to connect with Big Blue Button, which is a wonderful open source project that provides web conferencing services. And so I'm very excited about Big Blue Button and want to support that. We have blocks. Blocks typically present some information to the students. And so, you want to see who's online, and that information is out in a block on the side. So some of the most popular blocks are configurable reports. And there was a discussion in the first time I gave this about if I could choose kind of any one plugin or add-on, it would probably be something like configurable reports. And the nice thing about configurable reports, and we'll look at it more in detail a little later, is that it doesn't require you to have any particular technical knowledge of, say, SQL to be able to kind of design some custom reports to get information out of Moodle. Progress bar allows students to kind of get a visual representation of how they're doing and progressing through a course. Repositories and portfolios are similar. Moodle made a very conscious decision that it didn't want to be have and design its own kind of way of managing files and to be a file or document management system. It wants to be a learning management system instead, but it wants to be able to be flexible and to interact with other document management systems, things like Alfresco and Aquila and Nuxeo and things like that. And so some of the more popular ones are like Poodle and Microsoft SkyDrive. The most popular one, the course file area, I think came up after the transition from 1.9 to 2.0, where a lot of that work was done. And folks felt that they missed, especially folks coming from 1.9, they missed having a course file area. And so somebody wrote a repository to kind of provide that functionality. And so, for me, that demonstrates, again, kind of the real power of the Moodle community and its ability to kind of respond to different situations where, perhaps the Moodle core project goes in a direction that folks, have different needs or aren't necessarily in agreement on, that, people do respond to that challenge and say, well, we'll write some code and share that so that we can have the functionality that we were accustomed to. And portfolios is about taking information from Moodle and pushing it out. And there's currently only one, and that's the blog export portfolio. And so it really just, it sort of creates an internal portfolio within Moodle, you know, through the blog system. Then we move into the Plagiarism API, or the Plagiarism plugin type. And Turnitin.com and Urkund are two commercial products. They're subscription-based. And so if you are subscribed to either of those, then you can install that plugin into Moodle to allow for works that are submitted to be checked for plagiarism. Crot Plagiarism Checker is a free checker, and so you can read about kind of how it tries to make sure that students within an institution aren't kind of cheating off of each other. Then we have the whole question API, and there are question types, question formats, and question behaviors. I still don't adequately understand question behaviors, but they provide a lot of flexibility in terms of, you know, how what you can do with questions and how they respond to different scenarios. Question types are if you want to present a question in a different type of format to a student and have them interact with that question in a different way. That's what those are used for. And so, you know, the standard question types are things like multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, you know, things like that. And so there are a couple of plugins that have been shared from OU, the Open University. The drag and drop into text. So this allows a student to, you know, kind of like pick a word and, you know, drop that word into, move it into its proper location in a sentence. Drag and drop onto an image. So if you have a map and you want the student to be able to, you know, take the name of the country and put it on the appropriate place on the map, you know, things like that are possible. So for identifying, selecting missing word. So these are some of the different and the most popular question types. Question formats have to do with how to get information in and out, importing and exporting questions into Moodle. And so in core, the most common one I think that I've used is GIFT. And so it allows you just to write a text file and then import that text file into Moodle, and it'll create the questions for you based on that. So the plugin ones are Hotpot Question Import. So if you've designed using Hotpot some questions for a quiz, you can easily add those into your question banks. And then the Microsoft Word table format, which I've not used, but that's the second most popular one out of the four that are there. Then we get into things like authentication. You know, how do I want my users to authenticate and be able to log into my site? And so things like SAML and OAuth 2 provide some options for you. And Joomla provides a single sign-on service. If you have, say, a Joomla website, and you want it to be kind of somehow integrated with your Moodle site, there's the Joomla authentication type. I do want to highlight that, or at least mention, maybe not highlight, but mention that one of the issues that I've read a little bit about, that in the past there have been some security issues with Joomla, and so something to be aware of. So I kind of just put a word of caution there. Enrollment types are how does people get enrolled into courses, and so both sign up and auto enroll. The idea is that upon account creation, that you can set up parameters that say that, everybody gets enrolled in the introduction course, and things like that, so to automatically help people with enrollment. Filters, I think, are really neat and a great time saver. My favorite one in Moodle Core is the activity names auto-linking. And so if you have, an assignment called, video project, anytime you type the word video project into some text, whether it's a label or in a forum discussion, that text will be automatically converted into a link to the assignment. And so I know that can be a great time saver for teachers, and so something I would encourage. And so the Poodle filter allows some of the functionality from Poodle, and I know that there's a presentation that I believe it's Justin was doing on Poodle, and so it allows you to kind of create some filters to get to those materials. Whereas is a math tool, or a set of math tools, and so it allows you to provide kind of easy links into those tools. And simple speak text-to-speech allows you to designate certain text so that the user can then be able to hear that as audio rather than having to read it. General plugins or local plugins tend to be things that don't fit neatly into any of the other plugin types, and they're more generic to the entire site. And so one that I thought was neat and is very popular is the global message for site admins. This can be very useful. I'm getting ready to take the site down for maintenance, and I want to let all of the users who are currently logged in know that you can send a global message to them saying, save your work, getting ready to shut down in 5 minutes, and they'll be good to go. For those of you familiar with phpMyAdmin, which is a open source project to manage your MySQL database, Moodle Adminer is a good possible replacement. It allows you, it only give you access to the Moodle database, but the nice thing about it is it's not limited to just MySQL, but it also allows you if you're using Postgres or some other tools. And it's also much smaller in size. So if you're looking for a way, to kind of manage things directly in the database, even though I say that with a fair note of caution, never to make a change directly to the database without having a backup of the entire database. Because I did have a case where I was walking someone through making some changes to a database, and I wanted them to check all of the tables, I think, to make sure that there was no corruption in them, and they ended up erasing them all, and so that made for an interesting afternoon of quickly trying to restore their data. But Moodle Adminer is a great little tool for giving you access as a site admin directly to the tables in the database. And then the code checker is also a great tool, especially if you're developing and you've written some code and you want to check and make sure, does it comply with Moodle coding standards, the Moodle coding guidelines. And so that's plugin is available. If you're going to be submitting plugins, it's great if you can check that. Message outputs. Moodle gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to be able to receive notifications, whether it's through Moodle messages or like a Jabber client, through some type of IM service. And so the one message output that's been designed, email obviously would be another option, is the ability to receive those notifications via SMS. So that's what the Moodle Text Plus aims to do. I've not actually used that or tried it, but it sounds interesting. Getting information out of Moodle is sometimes a challenge, and so where people have needs that aren't addressed automatically, and they don't have kind of the coding background to be able to write a custom report. But there are currently 13 custom reports, and there are general reports and admin reports and course reports and grade reports. So there are different types of reports. But probably the most popular one and perhaps most useful is the ad hoc database queries. This does require some knowledge of SQL, but it does give you the ability to create some custom reports as a system administrator, and then allow people to be able to run those queries and get the information that they need. Then we have engagement analytics, which I've not looked at in detail. The gold, silver, bronze, medals report. It's interesting to see kind of how that compares to badges. And then the upload PDF grade report. I'm not going to say too much about the reports other than you can install them and kind of see what information they give out and whether that's helpful to you or not. Administrative tools are kind of things that a site admin might need to do or want to do to the site periodically. Things like editing roles by capability or the advanced spam cleaner are two examples that have been popular. Haven't seen too many of those, but there are some neat tools. There's one that's designed to kind of do some database cleanup. If there's been a particular error within Moodle and people find themselves in a strange state, you can write some conditions that'll go in and try to clean that up. But that's one that I reviewed recently. User profile fields used to just be all text, and then it was Moodle 2.0 or 1.9, but at some point the concept of actually creating profile field types came up, and so now you can specify whether it's a date or text or checkbox type thing, an integer, numbers, and so you have the ability to create kind of whatever user profile field type that you want. And so certificatewalls.com provides a type that you can go in and set it up so that if the user has any of those certificates registered with that service, it will appear as part of their user profile. And so, but don't confuse that with the certificates activity module or with badges, because they're completely separate entities. One of the things when I'm reviewing plugins that I try to keep in mind is, is the plugin reasonably well named, and is it going to cause confusion in the rest of the Moodle community? And I try to avoid that. In a case like this, where kind of the domain name or the company name, I allow them to kind of keep that, but usually ask that they kind of make it explicit that, hey, this is not certificates, and don't confuse it with certificates. So here's an absolute list of Moodle's most popular plugins, and so when I looked in a little bit more detail at some of these, I didn't, look at more than one theme, like Aardvark and Aardvark Post-it are both themes, and so we'll just look at one rather than looking at the top three. But this is the list of the currently most popular Moodle plugins. And you have access to this information, and I'll go ahead and type the URL here so that folks have it. At Moodle.org stats, or no, I'm sorry, it's plugins stats. So let me get the URL for that. And post that in here for you. Feel free to kind of play and look. This is where I got all of the information from for this presentation. And so you should be able to find all of the most popular plugins yourselves. And these are links to those, so you can kind of click on them and then read more about those plugins. So when you go to install a Moodle plugin onto your site, there's some fine print here, which I left very small, that I understand that it's my responsibility to have full backups, and that using code that has not been, carefully reviewed, and the whole Moodle coding process now is much more strict in terms of any code change goes through a peer reviewer, and an integrator looks at it and it gets tested. And so there are multiple steps now that are taking place for every code change. When I first got involved with Moodle, pretty much anyone who had write access to the CVS tree could make any change that they wanted to anything in Moodle. And so as Moodle has matured, the process now is much more careful. But for plugins, we really want people contributing and sharing code and being creative. But recognize that there are certain risks involved with that. So certainly back up your site. And really, I don't recommend installing an add-on for the first time on a production server. It's just not a good idea. And so have a development or a test server, preferably with live data. In other words, data that you've backed up from your production site, and kind of test it out in that environment. But at least install on perhaps on your local machine. Have a Moodle server up and running. There are packages available on downloadmoodle.org that allow you to do that if you don't have experience really in setting up, say, a web server and database server and things like that. That can make it easy for you to create a test environment. And so, the main disadvantages of add-ons or plugins that are not in core is that they're not maintained by Moodle HQ. That process of carefully reviewing is not enforced. So there may be security issues involved. There may be issues with, reliability and stability, performance issues, and so keep that in mind. Usability, it may not be well documented, and probably the most popular one, common one that I see is, when you want to upgrade your site to Moodle 2.5, maybe that plugin hasn't been tested, or maybe it simply doesn't work, maybe it breaks. And so, although Moodle has tried to do a much better job of documenting API changes so that there is much less breakage, but when there is breakage and things need to be reworked, it's certainly well documented. So hopefully the person maintaining the plugin will go ahead and make those changes and make a version available for the new version of Moodle. Again, if you have questions while I'm talking, please feel free to ask them in the chat. I'm going to go quickly through how to install a plugin. Prior to Moodle 2.5, you had to download the zip file and copy it over into the correct directory or path for that plugin to be installed on the server. So you had to have some type of write access to the server itself, either FTP or SSH or something like that. Now in Moodle 2.5, as a site admin, unless that the functionality has been disabled in the config.php, which it sometimes is, if you're hosted on, say, a Moodle partner, because they don't want you just going out and installing anything, because that could create some security issues not only for you but for others. And so there's some precaution and prudence, I think, really being taken there. But the functionality, if you're hosting your own Moodle site, is there that you can browse Moodle.org plugins and find the add-ons that you're looking for, and there will be an install button that you can click on that will help you to do that. If you're a developer and you're wanting to work with the person maintaining a plugin, then I would still recommend using Git as your kind of install method for installing that code. And so there's a nice documentation page here, Git for administrators, that looks at how to install code from another Git repository. So going back to Moodle 2.5, you log in as the admin, and then you click on this button that will allow you to browse Moodle plugins. And you can search either by the type, we've kind of looked at the different types, activities, blocks, course formats, and you can browse and see what's available there and how you're wanting to extend your Moodle. Or you can search by name if you've been reading on the forums about a particularly good plugin or add-on. You can search for it by name. Or you can review the download stats, which is the link that I provided, and just kind of see what others are using and explore that way. Once you kind of browse around and you kind of pull up the blocks and look, you'll see that there is an ability to download the zip file, but you can also click on this install button in Moodle 2.5 onward, and that will initiate the installation of that plugin or add-on directly into Moodle. And so I'll ask you, are you sure you want to add configurable reports block into Moodle? And you simply click Continue. And then it will look at the zip file and make sure that it passes some basic validation tests to make sure that it's complying with some Moodle standards. If it doesn't pass, if you don't see validation passed, look at whatever warnings it gives you very carefully and take note of that and be cautious. Once you've continued past that, it gives you now the option to go ahead and upgrade the Moodle database as you would installing the old-fashioned way. After you'd copied the files, you would go in and go to the notifications and click on that to go ahead and upgrade it. And then you get the notification that, yes, the block was successfully installed, and if there are any configuration settings that need to be done, you'll get an opportunity to do that, create those or set the defaults. And after that, the block is installed. If you want to continue to, or maybe it's not something that's been officially put into Moodle.org plugins, someone sent you a zip file or they posted a zip file on the forums. One, I always try to encourage those people, please consider adding it to the plugins, because that's really the place where we try to manage that. But you can still install a zip file. You just have to tell it here under the plugin type, what type of plugin is it? Is it a block or a theme? Provide the zip file, and then acknowledge that you know what you're doing. And you can delete plugins. Some of the plugin types will remove themselves, remove the files. So like a theme will actually remove the directory of the plugin for that theme so it doesn't reinstall itself every time you go to notifications. Others, like blocks, aren't doing that, so that's an area that I'd like to see more consistent. And I think I would like the default to be that it does, in fact, remove the files from this. One thing, this does kind of assume that you have that the web user on your server has write access to the server, so it's able to create those files. And so, there may be some permissions issues, or if you have issues, it may be a permissions issue. But hopefully we'll get so that you can add and remove add-ons without any problems. Looking real quickly here at some of the most popular ones and some things to look at when you're evaluating them. One, carefully read the description and make sure that the functionality that the add-on provides is actually something of benefit to you and your users. It may sound obvious, but I think if you're going to spend the trouble, the time and trouble of adding something onto your Moodle site and taking some of that risk, you need to have an understanding of, well, what's the benefit, what's the gain that I get from it, and so do I need the functionality that this provides? The profile bar with personal links, and so that's up here. Is that something my users need? I look to see, is it documented? And so themes, don't necessarily need a lot of documentation. They're pretty obvious and straightforward how they work. The number of downloads, how popular is it? We have a process of reviewing each version of a plugin that is submitted can get reviewed by a trusted reviewer of the community. And if you're someone that has some experience with Moodle and are interested in becoming a trusted reviewer, please send me an email. My email is anthony@moodle.org. And so, I'm happy to help people find the best way that they can contribute. So reviews give the perspective of a user who has a lot of experience with Moodle, of installing it and poking around and looking at how does it work, what's good, what's bad about the plugin. You also want to make sure that it's available for your version of Moodle. There is a bit of risk, say, in installing code that's been tested on 2.4 on a 2.5 server, so test that carefully. And I like to look at, how long has the maintainer been in the community? And the thing that's really stood out to me as I was preparing this presentation today is that most of the folks that have the most popular plugins have been with the community 5 years or more. So they have some experience. Getting close to an hour here, and so if folks have questions, and feel free to add those and mention those in the chat. The Hotpot Activity module, allows teachers to administer hot potatoes and tech toy quizzes via Moodle. It's had 35,000 downloads. It does have documentation, and these are links, and this presentation is available on the course, so you have access to that. Gordon's been with the community for 9 years, and so that's pretty solid. Collapsed topics format, course format, as I mentioned, collapses each topic into a single line to avoid the screen of, or the long screen of death, the scrolling screen of death, whatever you want to call it. And so users can then just click on here, and then it'll expand that section. Big blue button, I'm not going to say much more about that because that's been very well experienced by you all and provides integration. What I will say, though, is that this has been reviewed by Gavin, one of our reviewers. and so you can see that review. How easy is it to use? How easy was it to download and install? Things like that. Big Blue Button has 2 plugins, and so to group plugins together, we have the concept of sets. And a set is simply a group of plugins that work best when installed together. And so when you see that there's a set, look at what those other plugins are, and it'll let you know and show you, that these the activities, both of these work better when they're installed together. And so Big Blue Button is for showing and giving access to the web conferencing tools, and then recording is done through a separate activity. And so usually you want to install all of the plugins that are part of a set, even if they're not dependent. There is the concept of dependencies, and developers are really encouraged, if your code requires another plugin, make sure that you declare that dependency. Configurable reports, again, kind of lets you see different types of information, and you can kind of set it up with different constraints and criteria. And so, I'd say this is certainly a block worth checking out for site admins. Grid format was really popular when I attended the Sydney Moot a couple of years ago, I believe it was. Time flies. It basically gives, those topics, but as kind of in a graphical format where you can kind of click on those and get to them. So I encourage folks to really be active participants in the Moodle community. If you discover bugs and problems, consider following the tracker of the issues link. I encourage all developers to have that as a way of you communicating with them. But it doesn't just have to be bugs. It can also be feature requests, or suggestions for improvement. Developers appreciate hearing how users are using them, and so don't feel that you're just complaining by telling them of a bug. That actually is very helpful to be able to fix it. Maybe you're not a developer. Maybe you're more experienced with just using programs in the code. But you can help out with Moodle documentation, and this helps lessen the learning curve for other users, and also helps you to kind of document, like, oh, well, how do I do this? And at least you can go back and reference it if it's something you don't do that frequently. Get involved on the Moodle forums. Don't be shy to ask questions of folks, and let them know, your experiences. One thing I'll say is within Moodle plugins, there's the ability to add a comment, and there's a temptation sometimes to use Moodle comments as reporting problems to the developer. And now they do get feedback from that, and can sign up for that notification. But really, the tracker issue is where you would report a problem. Comments are really to kind of let others know. That's kind of the user's place to give their own simple review and just say, yes, I found this really helpful, or I found this really hard to learn, or, that kind of thing. So use Moodle forums for discussions. I have this idea of how this can be improved, or I find this really, clunky. And so what do other people think? And so, you can have those discussions on the forums. And then translating. If you're in a place that, or a language for which an add-on has not been translated, get involved as a translator. So don't allow inexperience to be an excuse for not participating. I think the more we participate as a community, the stronger we become. That's pretty much what I had to present. I want to open it up for questions for people to share their favorite plugins, or if you have a question about a plugin. I may or may not be familiar with it off the top of my head, but feel free to ask. I'm curious, how many of you have installed plugins, and which ones have you installed?
Hi, Anthony. While we're running for some questions, I would just like to thank you for your insightful presentation on plugins and sharing your passion for the community, which is always good to hear, because it is a passionate community that we're in. We love our Moodle community. And yeah, well, just thank you once again for your presentation. And now you can go on and answer those questions. Thank you.
My pleasure. So configure reports marking block. Okay, great. Brenda, how do you use marking block? Or what's that do? How does that help your users?
Yeah, I guess what I was saying.
Can you hear me, Anthony? I think I hit the wrong thing. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, but I would encourage you to speak loudly.
Okay. We use it. We have kind of a weird setup where we have like 500 courses, but no teachers. We have students taking tests and things online, but they're managed by a group of advisors. So anyway, our advisors need to know which tests have been submitted that have things that need to be marked. So it just shows up in the block on their login. If there's any essay questions or anything like that, it shows that they need to be marked, and they can just click on them, find their student, mark them, and then it goes away. So really, it's helpful for them.
Cool. Thanks for sharing your experience with us. Any other questions, comments? I'm happy to stick around and of the plugin types that you saw presented, which ones do you think would be, or which plugin type most caught your attention of something that you would like to explore further? Yeah, Big Blue Button's really exciting. Yeah, Poodle, especially for language types settings and getting people involved. Grid format is visually very appealing. Yeah, I was really thrilled that Big Blue Button was used for the iMoot this year. Themes and course formats, yeah. Andre, do you have a favorite theme? Yeah, certificate plugin has been popular. I'm curious how that's going to continue to play out, as the open badges ecosystem kind of develops. So I sort of see the badges as perhaps a replacement for certificates. Are you anticipating something similar, Dom? Yeah, it is. It's early, but I do hope that it develops well. I think there's a lot of potential there. For those of you who are folks that maybe write plugins, you know, on Moodle.org there's a file repository plugin for GitHub, and it allows you to, that way you don't have to create or download the zip file yourself. You just browse and go through and find the branch that you want and hit OK, and it will upload the zip file for you. And you just want to make sure that you click on allow it to rename the root directory. And once that's done, you know, then it'll upload that zip file for you. So I think it makes contributing code certainly a lot easier. For folks who have not tried that, you know, certainly explore that on Moodle.org, the GitHub file repository. And those of you who are here, you describe yourself as teachers, site admins, developers. You know, I do want to say, you know, Moodle plugins is continuing to evolve, and so if you have suggestions, you know, please feel free to share those with me, to email me and let me know. You know, I'd like to see the ability to kind of search more easily and kind of filter, and so yesterday one suggestion came up was it'd be great to be able to see, you know, the translations that are available for a plugin, so that, you know, if I'm from China, well, which add-ons, you know, have a translation available already, which blocks, so I could get to say, show me all the blocks that have a Chinese translation, things like that would be helpful. So another suggestion that came up would be, you know, in order to help developers, plugin developers, kind of keep up now that Moodle is being released a new version every 6 months, you know, we want them to be able to upload, you know, kind of the newest version beforehand. So with the development version, and so we're working on, you know, how can we do that, so that when, you know, 2.6 comes out, that, you know, their plugins are available for that day. I know Drupal does something very similar in their community, where they have the maintainers of plugins commit to, you know, they will have the plugin available and ready to go by this particular date. And that's really not going to be too hard, I think, you know, as the API changes are documented, that I think folks could have a couple of weeks at least, especially as things are getting finalized in the code, that, you know, they could make any updates that are needed. And if there aren't any, just go ahead and certify that, yeah, this is, I've tested it on the development version and it's working well, and make that available. Brenda, congratulations. Yeah, Moodle, you know, because the community is so wonderfully active, and people respond on the forums, and the documentation has gotten better over the years, you know, you really can teach yourself, and so there's a lot that you can do. So, well, if folks don't have questions, thank you for attending. You know, I'm happy to respond to any suggestions, questions, comments, concerns that you have. We want to make plugins as dynamic as possible, so that people can contribute and feel welcome to contribute, but also so that people can feel, you know, a certain sense of safety and security of the materials that are in plugins. And so it's a little bit of a balancing act, but I hope to help facilitate in that. And so, but I'm always open to suggestions. how we can better serve and promote Moodle add-ons and plugins for Moodle. So again, thanks everyone for being here. And if you have questions later on, feel free to send me an email. I always enjoy hearing from folks from all over the world. So love the international character of Moodle. Enjoy the rest of the iMoot. Have a great day, evening, bright and early morning, wherever you are.